Hey guys, welcome back to the My Dope Blend podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Kirkland, and my co-host, Greg Kirkland.
What's up, everybody?
We're so happy to have you guys today. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about what takes priority. We have so many things. I mean, what takes priority in your life? You know, what takes priority in our lives? And I would love to hear your stories in regards to that, especially being in a blended type of situation. So please make sure that you guys follow us, subscribe to us. You can follow us on IG at I Am the Bonus Club. You can follow us at I Am Dope Blend Podcast. You can also follow us on TikTok, which is BMom40. But we would love for you to be a part of our blended community, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. What takes priority? I am priority. I'm just kidding.
You are.
No. What takes priority? If you guys, for those who are new to our podcast, we're all things blended family. We're talking about, how we met, where we are currently, meeting the girls, and just about blended families, period. What things we can navigate through, the challenges that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And solutions that we can either help you guys on, things that worked for us, and how we can kind of help navigate you guys, right?
Yes.
So for us now, we're at a place of just talking about priority, because when you are bringing children into the fold and you're dating and you're having to manage so much, because we are both heavily involved in our jobs. We do entrepreneurship things on the side as well. So we have to make us,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make our family dynamic a priority.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do you do that when you're just getting started? Especially in a blended type situation. How do you prioritize things?
How do you prioritize
Relationship, because one, for you were dad first.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you still had to be dad first, but then you
Correct.
had a new relationship that you
Right.
had to watch, and you
Right.
had to nurture, and it had to blossom.
Right.
And you have this new woman
Mm-hmm.
that, women, I'm a
Mhm.
priority.
Mhm.
That's our thing.
Mhm.
What if you don't make me priority, then I'm not going to be here. But
Y'all see that
no,
thing in that neck?
seriously,
Mm-hmm.
making me a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And let's keep it real. Their mom had to be a priority too,
Right.
because she's the mother of their children.
Correct.
So how did you do that? Tell us about that.
Well, in my situation, my ex-wife and I shared and continue to share joint custody. So on one end, from a scheduling standpoint, when we first were divorced, we started out with a half on, half off. Like out of 7 days, we would do like 4 days with me, 3 days with her, and then 4 days with her, 3 days with me, that type of thing. As I shared in a previous episode, the girls actually voiced to me, I'm not sure if they voiced to us, but I know that they voiced to me that that was just a bit much for them. It was just too much back and forth. Middle of the week, switching up, going to school this part of the week from dad's house, going to school this part of the week from mom's house. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
And so then we moved to a 1 week on, 1 week off, 7 days, complete 7 days, which kind of stabilized things a little bit more, because the girls knew that at least for that full week, they would be with one or the other.
That's difficult.
It's
Don't you think? You don't think?
For them? Or
I mean,
for us?
overall, because your life is so different when you become a single parent, coming from two parents in the household to then separating.
Mhm.
And you're so involved in so much. How,
It
how did you do,
well, I mean, it actually, there were pros and cons to
okay. Okay.
it. Because the cons were in situations where, of course, you're going 7 days without seeing your children,
Okay.
and earlier on, when, cell phones was a thing, but FaceTime wasn't a thing. That's in more recent years.
Mhm.
You could Skype,
Oh,
but
Jesus.
but even
Skype.
in
Oh,
that,
God.
so you
We
going
telling our age.
right, but you going 7 days,
Oh,
without
goodness.
seeing your children. You could
Mhm.
talk to them, but you're going 7 days without seeing them. So
Mhm.
there's that side of things. Um, but then at the same time, from a scheduling standpoint, as a single dad who um I have an extremely busy schedule,
Yeah.
as you said. So it it actually enabled me to be able to know how to manage. Like I knew that on the weeks that I knew what I would be able to do on the weeks that I had the girls
Mhm.
versus the weeks that I didn't have the girls. I
Mhm.
knew what I could schedule on each week because on one week I wouldn't have to be a full-time dad.
Mhm.
If I needed to do studio sessions, if I needed to do late church rehearsals, if I needed to do now this is from a work standpoint that I'm
Right.
talking about right now. That's where the scheduling made things a little easier,
Mhm.
right? Okay, so now you incorporate dating, right? And so the same rules somewhat apply
Take
in
that no
that
time.
of what
I reclaim.
you are not going to recognize Maxine. Give me that gavel.
Ugh.
In a dating situation, it
Mhm.
was kind of the same. Whereas, you know, more extensive things, bigger things, concerts, events, dinners, stuff like that. I knew that I needed to try to schedule those things on the weeks that I didn't have the girls. Make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm.
And as far as like, activities that may have been a little lighter
Mhm.
on a weeknight, things of that sort. Maybe it's just going out to dinner, or maybe it's just doing this. Whereas the girls could be incorporated, but we wouldn't be out too late,
Yeah.
because they had to be home so they could be in bed for school the next day, that type of thing. So when you ask the question of which one is priority,
Yeah.
you
You have to
ru-
make
you
both.
have they're both.
So, I know for me that was something that I was like, okay, how we're going to juggle this, and to kind of go back a little bit, that was one of the things that I hesitated
Hmm.
with in regards to us dating at all, because
Right.
I was like, He don't have time for like how." Look, if I'm not going to be a priority, I don't want to be in this. And for me, it's like, how do you make yourself a priority when you have kids? And I feel like I shouldn't have to make myself a priority. I should be, just become a part of, a part of. And that's really hard because I hear a lot of my single friends who are mothers,
Hmm.
um who tend to date men with children, or
Hmm.
even sometimes without, but men with the children that say, I don't feel like I'm a priority. I try to make him a priority, and I have a child, and I'm trying to make him a priority. And sometimes I have to bring him into my life in order to make him my priority, but that
Yeah.
shows him that you are important to me.
Right.
And a lot of people, that word priority
Hmm.
is really big for
Yeah.
them,
Sure.
you
But
know.
I mean, and it should be. Um. How do I say it? Being a priority is important,
Mhm.
um, as long as it's healthy. Like, in other words, what I'm saying is that if your significant other wants to be priority, but it's from a selfish, unhealthy place, then that means that they don't want. Then you know it puts you in a place of not feeling like you're able to share your time with the other parts of your life that are priority.
Mhm.
You know, that was a tug of war for a little while between the two of us because control versus comfort, right?
The
S-
3 C's are coming back,
yeah,
guys.
I
They're
won't.
coming
But
back.
Caddy is not involved in this.
Okay.
Maybe, but
See what I'm
I
saying?
can tell you how to get back to that Caddy part. But
Okay.
but the control versus comfort conversation comes into play here you because it could be a control situation where you say, "Make me a priority." I don't feel like I'm a priority. You know, when you say, that was a concern of yours in advance of, will I be a priority? Am I going to be a priority? Can I be a priority? Whereas the comfort on my end is you have to give me the opportunity to show you that you're a priority.
Okay. Okay, so let's kind of dig a little bit into that because people's priority is different. It's different for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. So some people feel like I'll use an example. I remember there was one time you and I had somewhere to be, or we were going out, and one of the girls, I think you want to bring the girls to your mom or something like that. And I
Hmm.
believe one of them got sick.
Okay. Sounds
Um,
about right.
yeah. One
Hmm.
of them got sick, and you were like, we can't go. And my thing was, okay. Initially, I was like, dang it. But I believe I said, well, do you want me to come? Do you need my help? Or you just want to do it another day? And I can't remember if I came or we just said another day. But I find that, when you're dating someone with children, you have to be willing to step aside for a second. And that doesn't take away from you being a priority. That's just teaching you how to share that
Right.
almost.
And
Um
not to cut you off, but now if let's as we're digging into that, you know,
yeah,
you told
let's
that story very lightly, but that
oh,
story, didn't go very lightly
I did.
because
I still have
that's what.
selective memory.
See, I don't know if I'm this is what I'm talking about.
I
I
said
don't know.
that? Oh my
See, I
god.
mean, I understand those are your children, and she's sick and all,
Tell a
but
story.
this is where it's a bit of a
Muddy.
struggle
It
for me.
mhm.
This is where it's a bit of I'm imitating her right now. This is where it's a bit of a struggle for me because I mean, I'm not used to that dynamic. I don't have my own kids. They're your kids. I respect that. But now here I am. I have to take a back seat to something that we had planned that I was excited about. And now all of a sudden we're not able to do it because your children are sick. And therein is where it gets muddy
Muddy.
because
It does.
listen to these two words right here, your children.
Okay.
And that's not a
Let's
dig, that's not a slam,
Imma take a
but
sip of
that's
water.
you drink your water over there while I talk for a minute. The co-host is gonna talk right now. You know, y- in okay, okay,
Your
let me
children,
make it make sense. Let me make it make sense.
please.
Fast forward
Mhm.
to now us married with our own children,
Okay.
with our children,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
There was a trip that we were going to take to New York,
Yes.
and Carter got sick. Carter is our son. And because Carter got sick, we could not take our trip to New York.
I was a new mom.
Okay. But notice how the dynamic is different when it's our kids versus what it was
When it
when it
was
was
yours.
just your
But let me
kids.
ask you this though, seriously, how would you have wanted me to in what way could I have said that differently? Because at the time, it was your children
Right.
because we weren't in that fiance or marriage dynamic yet.
Right.
So
With
how
the,
would I have phrased that differently?
that's the tug of war between the bonus and the biological. Because
Biological mom. Oh,
no,
okay.
no,
No.
no, parent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got
you're
it.
the
Okay.
bonus, I'm the
Yes.
biological
Okay.
when it came to the girls.
Yes.
Make sense?
Right.
Okay, so that's the tug of war because the tug of war comes into play when when in your perspective, they're your kids. I'm trying to prioritize myself in this situation. I'm trying to see how you're making me a priority in this situation. And it gets difficult when we have plans and then the plans get altered because something happens with one of your kids, right? That's your perspective. You're
Right.
right in that. You're not wrong in that. It's factual.
Okay.
All of that is correct. Now, from the biological standpoint of the one that has the kids that's coming into a relationship with someone new, that's where it gets sticky for us because we have to get to a place where we say, is the new person able to, are they going to be able to accept the concept of when you come into this dynamic, they have become our kids. They're no longer your kids, they're our kids. It's that's when it gets sticky
Okay.
because the parent of the children
Mhm.
is thinking, I want to incorporate you into my life,
Mhm.
but to take me is to take my kids as well. And there is no more your children. When you come into this picture, now we have kids. And so the biological parents' thought process is you're gonna have to accept the fact that if we're gonna be together, that
Mhm.
we now have kids. So when you throw in the we can't because your children,
Mhm.
it starts to make the biological parent feel like, wait a minute, is this
Is this gonna be a problem?
is this gonna be an issue?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to put a pin there because I think there's a little bit more to dig into that because you have to see it from the standpoint of the other person.
I get it.
Yeah, because I get what you're saying, but sometimes I don't think it's really being portrayed that way. So
Okay.
we'll come back to that, guys, because this is getting really, really good because I didn't see it from that standpoint, but I think I need to explain for all of our single people out there my viewpoint.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys in just a second. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about, just that priority and what that looks like from a single person standpoint and, that, your children type
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
response. No, no shade because I get it. I get that children get sick all day. Children hurt themselves. It's a bunch of different scenarios. But sometimes I think as a parent, we don't know how to navigate on, okay, what needs attention now to, okay, it can wait. I can still do what I need to do and, um sift through that a little bit. And you get on me about that now, if you really think about it,
Mhm.
because how I am with the boys.
Right.
You're like, Leslie, they'll be fine. Nothing's wrong.
Mhm.
Come on.
Mhm.
We don't have to change this because they're feeling this way.
Mhm.
My mom can take care of them. Your sister can. My sister can. But
Mhm.
when you're dating in the beginning of that and it's on the other foot, I think the responsibility of that biological parent is a little bit more um I don't want to use the word threatening, but you're like overcompensating a little bit
Okay.
because you're okay. I don't want my kid to think I'm not here for them, so I may have to cancel because my child saying he's sick, and if I don't cancel, they might go back to their mom or they might go back to their dad and say I didn't make them my priority because they were sick, and then you get a call. I heard my baby was sick, and you went out on a date. Pause for a second. And you could bring that C word catty in it, but it's the truth. It's realistic things that happen. So I'm the other person and I'm supposed to be like, okay, so I'm not supposed to say anything. This is how I feel like, okay, they're sick. Are they hospital to the point of hospital? No, and I'm not saying there are moments where you don't need to be there. You do need to be there for your children. But if it's something as simple as, okay, my mom can watch them for a little while, we had something planned. You can't expect someone who does not have children or don't have those type of um situations to automatically be okay with it. Now, I'm not gonna be inconsiderate.
Mhm.
I am, but I'm also gonna feel like, okay, I'm looking forward to I don't get to see you every day anyway because I have to share my time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
We've now created an allotted time. We've created dates and all of those things. So I want to stick to that.
Right.
Things will come up. Well, we'll have to change. But
Mhm.
I think there's some instances where people make that. They don't know how to juggle. What my kid, and you're like, okay, either you gonna date or you're not. Because every time the child says, in some situations, kids can do that. That could be another way that we discuss. Kids have a way of lashing out, especially when their parents are dating and they do it different ways because they know the actual parent who is dating is going to overcompensate because they don't want the children to feel some type of way.
Mm.
So it's all of those emotions
I hear you.
It's all of those emotions, and it's not always easy, and you know this because we went through that.
I
It was not, you had to learn how to be like, "Okay."
I I I agree with you, and I hear you.
Mhm.
I hear your perspective, you know, and therein is where you have the tension of priority. The
Yeah.
question is, which is the priority, right?
Mhm.
Um, when I went from being in a two-parent household with my ex-wife and my children to being a single father in an apartment with just my girls, um, it turned into a situation where I had to be mama, daddy for my week. For my
Yeah.
week. I had to be mama, daddy, chef. I had to wash the clothes. I had to bathe them. I had to do homework. I had to do on my week, you know. Um, Funny story to that. I'll come back to it. But you become programmed in. That's all I know.
Mhm.
And so when something comes along on my week, um, the priority for me becomes my children,
Mhm.
you know. Um, and that's the tough position also that the parent with the children is put in,
Exactly.
you
So,
know,
we're both dealing with it just in a different
from
way
different
because you're
perspectives.
programmed, to be X, Y, and Z. I am programmed where I wasn't X, Y, and Z. I was just X or Z, whatever one I want to
Mhm.
be, and so I got to give you grace and you got to give me grace
Right. Right.
in that perspective because one, you're trying to figure out how to, your favorite thing, balance the unbalance,
Him.
imbalance. You
Mhm.
say balance the imbalance, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That is the same in this situation. You're trying to juggle, balance it all.
Right.
So the initial I is not I'm a priority. You have to make that person a priority. You have to make everything within the dynamic a priority and learning how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um Now I think this is something for those that's listening and viewing, for those that children live out of state.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
Yeah.
It's really easier because, okay, you don't have those situations where my child is sick or it's my week, it's this and that, so I might have to cancel. No, you're free to do more.
Right.
Now those dynamics may be a little different when sometimes they have the kids for the
Right.
summertime and, but
Right.
not not as much as you do,
It's not, the
so
regularity
it's not the
of
regularity.
the responsibility
Correct.
is not as great.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I, it's so funny, it's kind of like the whole thing of men. What is it? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or opposite, however it's said, right? There's always that dynamic of uh, the perspective of which is which is right, which is wrong, which is you know which came first, the chicken and the egg. This constant conversation of perspectives,
Yeah.
and I think that is the biggest maybe hurdle or obstacle, or maybe the biggest thing that has to be worked through in a blended family dynamic,
Yeah, that's true.
because both are going to always, not even both, all three or all four are
All 4, just let's
always
call it all
yeah,
4.
because you got the children, the current parent, and the ex,
Mhm.
you know, and everybody sees it from their perspective. Not even in many cases, not all, but in many cases, not even willing
To
to
see
see it
it.
from the other perspective,
I'm glad you
because
said that.
it's
Mhm.
this is my reality.
That
This is what I'm dealing with.
right.
And hooch, what you got going on. This is this is what I got going on. And that's it.
And we're going to elaborate more on that in the next episode because you kind of plug that in a little bit with I want to talk more about the whole co-parenting thing. But You're right. Women view things a little bit different. Well, a lot different. Let me not say a little bit. It's true. A lot different than men view. We have our ways of, navigating and seeing things. But I think in this situation though, I feel like um women have it a little bit harder than the male when it comes to the priority. You can clear
Should have
your
got
throat.
me
If
some
I got water if you
water.
want it.
Okay.
But
We about to
because
do this.
yeah, we are because from that standpoint, and I'm not dismissing single fathers. I applaud you very much so. But I think the brunt of just parenting is mom. So at times I think it's easier for a male to go out and meet and date while being a single father than it is for a single mom. I really do. Even you said we have joint custody. What is joint custody? Because everybody gives a different definition of joint
Mm,
custody.
Well, it
50
just
50,
depends on how that joint
but
custody
it's
is
written
is
up
work. Not just written
or
up,
or
but
how
how
it's
it's
really working.
well, right, how it's carried out.
And I'm
Because
looking into the camera with that. How does it really work?
because joint custody is unique to the
It's
situation.
so unique.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. Again, in my situation, we were set up to where it was 1 week on, 1 week off, and um, it just on the weeks off, it was easier. It was easier to date on the weeks off.
Mhm.
That's the best way I could put it. But on the weeks on, my kids were priority because I had them.
And those moms that never get the week off.
Yeah, that happens. Now listen, to that point, I would have to give kudos and applaud, my ex-wife, because at a certain point when the girls got to be a certain age, they started riding the bus to school.
Yes. Mhm.
And so it made more sense for them to be picked up from home, which meant that the majority of their time was
Was spent
spent
with
at
her.
home. Home meaning at her house.
Mhm.
Um, so then when that became a thing, uh the ability from my perspective to be able to maintain a relationship became a little more easier from that perspective. Here's where it became more difficult because as you talked about parents who have children that are out of state. Well, when you have children that don't necessarily live with you, but they live in state,
Mhm.
then you have the responsibilities of still going to the
Scoop
school activities and you
activities,
still have to be at the
extracurricular.
daddy daughter
Mhm.
and you still have to be at the or in my case I used to drive to pick up the girls and drive and take them to school.
Oh, we're going to talk about that when we get on to co-parenting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that was the thing that I had to do.
yeah.
I had to drive from my house to where they were, pick them up and take and drive them to their school every day.
Y'all, when I tell y'all that story.
Yeah, that was and it was a lot. So I'm just saying that was one dynamic that made things harder. So it's like the juggle of what makes things easier, what makes them harder. So when you ask the question, what takes priority, it's almost, I don't know if you could say that the easy answer to that is, of course, there are some that are watching and listening that would immediately say, of course, my children are the priority. My children are the priority. But
Am I
until you
rising?
start getting into a serious relationship with someone,
That
male
shifts.
or female, they're gonna be looking at you like, yeah, you got kids, but you got me. So you have
Because
to
at
make
the
some
end of the
decisions.
day, your kids will grow up and they will leave the house, at the end of the day. And I'm not saying that there's not a point where, kids need there is a point, their major point. I think that's between adolescent and going into teenager that you really, it can be a tug of war,
Mhm.
and you really need to be present. But it doesn't mean that because of that, you don't allow yourself the opportunity to have your own life. I think
Yeah,
we miss it, that
yeah.
piece is
Yeah. And that is the struggle of, you know what? To me, that's the struggle of not to
Here we
not to
go. Here we
belittle
go,
not to
Lord. Here we
belittle the bonus parent,
Okay.
but that's the struggle, in my opinion, of the biological parent. When you have this priority conversation, it really becomes the burden of the biological parent because it's the biological parent that has to prioritize everybody, including the ex.
Yes, we will.
I mean, I wasn't trying to start nothing, but all I'm saying is that, when you look at it from the perspective of prioritizing,
Mhm.
it just, no, again, no shade to the person coming in,
Mhm.
but it's up to the biological parent, the parent of the children, to have to juggle everybody.
Understood. But I will talk when we come back from the break just a little bit more from a single person standpoint because I just want to make it clear in regards to how I felt. And not necessarily for everyone, but just how Leslie felt. Okay?
Okay.
We'll be right back.
All right.
All right. So, not to sound like I was inconsiderate of, your feelings or what you were going through as the biological parent, but this was something you I've been doing this for a long time is what he
Oh,
always says.
yes.
So you had been doing it for a long time
Mhm.
when I have never, I was like a sloth, like taking my time. Like, so all the different scenarios that was coming up, it was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Because I can pick up and go.
Mhm.
But now I have to think differently, do differently, be differently.
Mhm.
It's so much requirement of me. That's what I felt. That okay, where does my place take place?
Yeah.
Where do I fit in through all of this?
Yeah.
And what trying to get to with that is, you really did a great job, after you got your footing in regards to how to, juggle all of it. You
Thank you.
really did get your footing into making me a priority. I can't say that I ever felt like I wasn't. I
Mm.
really can't. After conversations and in the beginning, let
Mhm.
me stress that in the
Mhm.
beginning, of us, what do we want from each other and really making sure that we were, very, what's the word? Persistent about that,
Mhm.
and serious about it.
Mhm.
I can't tell you, in that after that situation that we did have about I
Yes.
have to cancel because she's sick or whatever,
Mhm. Mhm.
after that I'd never felt like he
Wow.
doesn't view me as a priority or I am not a priority. And at moments it became sometimes we all going on a date.
Yeah. I mean,
Serious. We all
yeah.
going. And, after a while, I was good with accepting that because at least I felt like we were all doing something and I
Yeah.
was not just left out in the cold. I think the single person sometimes feels left out. You know, you already coming trading water just a little bit. Like, okay, I got to be very sensitive. I got to be careful what I say, what I do, you know. And so, but then when I feel left out, it's like, okay, why am I here?
Right.
Why am I here? I know you want this, but do you really want this? But after that, I didn't feel that. I really, and I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad, because it was important to me, for you to know that you were a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it just, as you said, there were moments when we all had to go out together, which made things easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I knew that, okay, at least for this moment, I can somewhat make, I won't say everybody, if you think about the context of what I've already shared, but at least my, my immediate core.
Yeah.
Uh, at least in those moments, I can at least kind of satisfy everybody at once
Yeah. Mhm.
and not feel pulled to have to satisfy this one now and then this one later. And then how do I make this make sense? And this one wants, she wants me to be over here today, but it just has play rehearsal for 100 Dalmatians. So how do I,
Yeah.
and that is very, very
Yeah.
difficult.
Um so that's another piece too, what you started doing. Like before it was I got to get there. I got to get there. And
Mhm,
I felt like you carried the weight of guilt.
mhm,
In the beginning of our relationship I felt like he is carrying so much weight of my children. I'm divorced and I have these girls. They didn't ask for this,
mhm.
and I got to make sure that I'm there, because if I'm not, I don't want them ever to look at me like I wasn't a good dad.
Right,
And you also didn't know what was being said on the other side.
right.
So you went hard. You used to go so hard that at moments I would tell you, babe. And he used to be so exhausted. But Greg is a type of person that he will rather be exhausted than for you to not say that he didn't come through. That is just his nature. That is who he is. But at the same time, it's at a fault, because even at the time, his girlfriend, I got to see the other side of him. He was drained because he was trying to be all to everyone, especially the girls and me, and even his ex wife. He was trying to be everything to everyone, and that you can't carry that. And I think the breakthrough came when you realized that, when you said, I cannot be at your recital tonight, but what I will do is I'll come to your rehearsal and I'll watch your rehearsal as if it was the night of your performance. And to me, that made them feel even more of a priority than you actually being at the event, because to me they were like, he took time out of his day to come sit in my rehearsal, and they pointing at their friend, that's my dad, that's my dad. It's those things. um and you not feeling guilty for not being there because we went out with our friends, or we were taking a trip.
Yeah, yeah.
And if y'all could see his face right now, that's really how he felt, and he was saying, "I'm good," and he wasn't.
Well,
He wasn't.
I have several, several mantras, several um I I guess ideologies maybe.
Mhm,
I don't know if that's the correct word, but that I live by.
mhm,
Um One, when it came specifically to my girls,
mhm,
was that it was important to me to make it clear that I divorced their mom. I didn't divorce them.
mhm,
That was it was it was paramount that I expressed that and that I showed that.
mhm,
Um, and sometimes it was to a fault. Um, then there's the part of me that has always declared that I'll never, I never want to be a public success and a private failure,
mhm,
which meant that I had to balance the imbalance
mhm,
of being able to be being able to honor all of my commitments and give everything excellence. And by commitments, that is uh marriage, but at the time we weren't married. So, it was parenthood, boyfrienddom, uh
Boyfriendom, okay.
uh
New word, guys. We got so many.
ministry,
Yeah.
music and arts,
Yeah.
career. I
Mhm,
just made a vow that I would give excellence to every part and every dynamic of who I am. So, it was just important to me that my being tired, my being exhausted, my being spent, um, was for me the result of honoring all of my commitments. You
mhm,
know, um, There was some guilt involved.
Mhm.
There was. There was some guilt involved and perhaps some overcompensation. Um, Part of that too was that as the girls, there also came a point post divorce
Yeah.
that I went on tour
Yeah.
with Tyler Perry,
Mhm.
and I was on tour for about a year,
Mhm.
and so in that time, I wasn't there to go to the extracurricular activities, to pick up from school, drop off from school, to do homework, um, things of that sort. So then there was a part of me that when I got home, I would try to go above and beyond to make up for that time
Mhm.
and to also express that, hey, I'm still your dad, I'm still here. So to that, you know, there was the part of me that just felt like I had to be sure that they understood that I'm still here.
Mhm.
Um, but you're right. As time went on, and you helped me with that, but then there was some understanding that I had to come to within myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to those of you that might be watching and listening, there has to come a point where you have to come into yourself to the understanding that,
It's okay for you to be happy, and it's
yeah,
okay for you to have a life outside of the children.
yeah, it's okay to quote unquote move on, not
Ooh,
from your children, but move on from
the
the
situation.
situation. And as long as your children are a part of the journey.
Ooh, that's so good.
So, how do you move on, w- including everybody?
So, do you feel like in that uh, the struggle, wow, I don't think we've ever talked to in this detail about that. So do you think the struggle of prioritizing and figuring that all out and the guilt was also attached to letting go? Do you think all of that kind of encompass like trying to find your way? I'm letting go. I'm being happy. I'm finding priority in different ways. Do you all think it played a part
In letting
in
go.
letting go of the past because in you finding me and reshifting the priorities with the girls a little bit, that caused the shift with your ex-wife too. So do you think that all kind of encompassed, it's kind of almost rolled over?
Yeah, I do think that there was the dynamic of, you know, the day that I had to have the conversation with her that I had met someone
Mhm.
and that I was dating someone and that it was getting serious,
Mhm.
you know, that immediately started the bonus process.
Yes, Lord.
Um, and that immediately also started the tug of war with priority because now you have, um, and I don't say this in a accusatory from an accusatory place, but that also sparked a bit of the third C, the cattiness side of things,
Yes.
um, because and I want to say you may mention this earlier of, you know, you gonna prioritize my children,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
as if I wouldn't have
Have
anyway.
anyway. Mhm.
But uh, I mean, I have to,
Yeah.
she was seeing it from the
From her
perspective of
her lens.
she's mom, and these are my kids. We had them together. You're not about to go off and live your life and do your thing and forget about my
Them.
kids. And so then there was the moments of forced priority.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, where it wasn't voluntary. on my
Purpose.
on
Yeah.
my part,
Hmm.
you know. You know, so it's just that again, but that comes from the lenses of the biological parent that's in the middle of the ex, the new, and the children. That's the dynamic. So when you bring up words like guilt, when you bring up words like priority, when you bring up words like letting go, um, things of that sort, that
Let
is
it go.
okay, Elsa. That is um that is the struggle.
I mean, it's a struggle, period, prioritizing your life, be it single, in a relationship, married, having children, not having children. We all have to learn how to find balance.
Hmm.
Um, I think the part about it is we have to, you don't want guilt to overshadow that, because I think in life we sometimes allow guilt to do that. Guilt in whichever situation that, it may lie. We don't allow ourselves the opportunity to just be
Hmm.
happy and learn how to put things in their proper places,
Hmm.
which causes things to spill over.
Hmm.
And then chaos doesn't result in anything. It just continues to build more chaos.
Yeah.
Um, so in this scenario of dating and, finding balance and putting the priority where it should be, the end result is we are all a priority in this journey.
Hmm.
Um, is just knowing how to compartmentalize the priorities.
Hmm.
So
And everybody has to be open to seeing that they are being made a priority.
absolutely, and you have to be open. I
Hmm.
agree with that. This was a really enlightening episode. But we touched on it a little bit. And I can't wait for you guys to come back to hear us talk about this in more detail. And for the next episode, we've kind of brought her in a little bit with the ex-wife, but we're really going to talk about divorce. I'm going to let my husband take the lead on that one.
Mighty
Um,
God.
because it is his story. And I think it needs to be heard. And I think men need to be able to find their safe place within this dynamic as well, because they carry so much. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode, because I really did. It was very
Yeah, it was
enlightening.
cool.
It's
Hmm.
definitely. I am your host, Leslie Kirkland, and this is my husband, co-host Greg Kirkland.
Co-host.
And this is my dope blend, because we so dope
Lord have
podcast.
mercy.
We have merchandise. If you guys want to join our blended community, which I would love to have you and hear your stories and how things and breakthroughs happened for you and how we were able to be a light in your path. Please, please, please subscribe to us, like us, follow us. You can follow us on Instagram at I Am the Bonus Club. I am Dope Blend. I'm saying Dope Blend Podcast. I'm sorry. And then on TikTok, you can follow me on Bonus 40. So I would love to, I'm sorry, it's B Mom 40. I would love to hear from you guys and just be a part of your journey. And DM me, send it to me. Can't wait
Be
to hear
careful
from you
now.
guys.
Watch out for them DMs now.
Peace.
I'm the daddy.